Now at 5, the state of Utah is finally seeing stormy skies.
I'm tracking some much needed rain here across the state, how much rain you can expect and how long it will last coming up.
Utah's fireworks industry says what cities are doing may not be completely legal.
We can function, deliver, and do significant things.
A deal is struck on a massive infrastructure bill today in Washington. The cost, the compromise, and what's still left to do.
Yo, put the knife down!
Salt Lake City police released body camera footage of a June 10th police shooting. We'll have details plus reaction from the community coming up.
I mean, it sounded like thunder. I thought a storm was coming.
Dozens of people feared missing in the rubble of a condo collapse near Miami as loved ones wait for answers.
One university is seeing historic enrollment numbers, but they're telling students they don't have enough housing.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
After several triple-digit days this month, we finally see some much-needed rain along the Wasatch Front.
Let's go to meteorologist Allison Krogan in the First Alert Weather Center.
Yes, so much rain this afternoon that we ended up with a flood advisory for the southwestern part of the Salt Lake Valley. We had 1.3 inches of rain in daybreak, more than an inch and a quarter fell in 1 hour, or just about an inch and a quarter fell in 1 hour, and we had some urban flooding. Now rain so far, Grantsville 1.1 inches, about half of an inch of rain for Big Cottonwood Canyon, Sandy 0.38, and Vernon and Orem both looking at about a quarter inch of rain as the cells moved through. Still quite a bit of lightning, mostly south of I-70, Capitol Reef over towards Canyonlands, up into Green River right now, right along I-70, and then Wasatch back. That's where we have our lightning coming down right now. And as I go ahead and take off that lightning layer, you can see that line of storms. It's producing some heavy rainfall briefly. So temperatures right now 60s and 70s here across the state. It's quite a bit cooler compared to this time 24 hours ago. You'll notice the difference here along the Wasatch Front, 30 degrees cooler just about. And as we look at the temperatures for tonight at 10 p.m., 70 degrees, 60s when you wake up at 8 a.m. and by noon tomorrow, 79. Still a chance for some scattered thunderstorms tomorrow. I'll let you know where coming up.
Allison, as the rain keeps falling, we continue to monitor breaking news in Salt Lake City. A semi was hanging off the edge of the I-215 West ramp going to westbound I-80. You can see some pictures of the scene from earlier this afternoon. Now, at one point, all 3 ramps were closed due to this accident. We are told those ramps are now open, so crews worked fast and hard to clear that truck, and we haven't heard of any injuries. Weather could have been a factor in this accident.
We feel like not only is it contrary to the statute that's out there, it's just contrary to how government ought to act in these circumstances.
Right now, there are threats of lawsuits over cities banning fireworks in Utah. The Utah legislature is expected to revisit fireworks laws next year.
As Ben Winslow reports from Utah's Capitol Hill, some lawmakers are threatening bills, while fireworks industry representatives are warning of litigation.
As more cities across Utah enact all-out fireworks bans, a representative of the fireworks industry tells Fox 13 that may not be entirely legal and could get them sued.
The state legislature has walked a very fine line.
The fireworks industry is pushing back on cities that are starting to enact all-out bans in the face of drought and wildfire risk.
Cities, towns, the state placing some additional restrictions certainly makes some sense. I think that where our concern comes is when cities are appearing to go beyond the scope of the statute that is out there and banning fireworks altogether in their cities.
The Utah Retail Merchants Association questions the legality of all-out bans on personal fireworks. Utah law does allow cities and towns to restrict where fireworks can be set off. Salt Lake City is the largest to enact an all-out ban, interpreting the law one way. South Salt Lake, Holiday, and Mill Creek are also issuing total bans, while other cities like St. George have severely restricted fireworks to places like public parks.
We're supportive of those jurisdictions that are making those restrictions.
The Utah Retail Merchants Association warns cities might face lawsuits over all-out bans.
Those cities that are going down that path are putting themselves potentially in some legal jeopardy.
Governor Spencer Cox has backed cities that are banning fireworks in the drought emergency. He's even pushed for legislation to enact an all-out ban on personal fireworks in areas where there's exceptional drought. Right now, that would be a huge chunk of the state.
I'm personally for it, but I don't know if that would ever pass. I think that because we want to give local control.
Senator Janie Iwamoto is one of the sponsors of fireworks legislation. She says they're looking at everything from cities' powers on restrictions and the governor's drought and fireworks requests.
We will definitely be listening to all sides of it.
Republican leadership here on Capitol Hill will not enact an all-out fireworks ban, nor will they call a special session for it, so expect any new bills dealing with fireworks restrictions to come in the new year. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
As fireworks sales began in Utah today, wildfire crews now warning and reminding everyone that it is illegal to light fireworks anywhere in Utah right now. The Utah Division of Forestry, Fire and State Lands says last year about 65 wildfires were started by fireworks. And even after July 2nd, when it's normally legal to light them off, cities and towns can still not allow it. State fire authorities hope people think long and hard before using fireworks around the 4th and 24th of July in places it's still legal.
It's very easy for a firework to be what starts that fire. Are you willing to take that risk of potentially, evacuating communities, threatening homes, and putting first responders in risk this holiday?
Well, you got to be careful. The National Safety Council says fireworks start almost 20,000 fires each year, including more than 1,000 structure fires.
And to answer your direct question, we have a deal.
It's being called a rare Washington win for bipartisanship.
President Joe Biden has reached a deal with a group of Democratic and Republican senators to move his infrastructure plan forward.
But as Karen Kaifa reports, there's still a lot to do.
It's been a very long time since the last time our country was able to strike a major bipartisan deal on American infrastructure.
President Joe Biden and a bipartisan group of senators say they finally have a deal on an infrastructure spending plan.
And this agreement signals to the world that we can function, deliver, and do significant things.
Republicans and Democrats who worked on the framework of the deal with Biden were with the president at the White House Thursday.
We didn't get everything we wanted, but we came up with a good compromise that's going to help the American people.
We all gave some to get some, because what we did was put first the needs of our country.
Lawmakers still have much to do, but finding an agreement that could potentially pass with 60 Senate votes is an important first step. The total cost is said to be around $1.2 trillion, more than $1 trillion less than what the White House initially proposed, with about $559 billion in new spending, according to multiple sources familiar with the matter.
We've agreed on the price tag, the scope, and how to pay for it. It was not easy to get agreement on all three, but it was essential.
That spending focused on physical infrastructure like the nation's roads and bridges and internet. Democrats will try to pass Biden's so-called human infrastructure plan, which includes proposals for child care, elder care, free community college, and pre-kindergarten, without Republican support, using a budget process known as reconciliation, which only requires a simple majority in the Senate. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Well, that infrastructure agreement reached in Washington today had an effect on U.S. stocks. The Dow added 323 points, ending at 34,197. The Nasdaq rose 98. The S&P hit a fresh high, climbing 25 points.
Utah Senator Mitt Romney says the infrastructure bill is a big step forward, quote unquote, for the nation's lawmakers. But how will it improve Utah? Romney says the bill does not have funding broken down by state, but there are formulas to determine how much money each state will get. Of the $55 billion allocated for water infrastructure nationwide, there is a good chance Utah could get more money because of our dry conditions.
Particularly in the American West, where things are dry, and in our state where things are particularly dry, being able to have funding going into water projects, storage projects, and distribution projects is a good thing for Utah.
Senator Romney is one of 10 lawmakers working directly with President Biden on this bill.
Still to come, he was once the mayor of New York City. Now he has been suspended from practicing law. We'll explain why.
And the number of fatal crashes on Utah roads this year and what authorities are doing about it.
Welcome back, everyone. 0 fatalities on Utah's roads is a goal we can all live with. So Utah Highway Patrol troopers now cracking down on speed, DUI, and reckless driving. There have been 126 fatal crashes in Utah so far this year. Troopers are seeing a huge increase in the number of people they stop for driving more than 100 miles an hour. They're not sure why this is happening, but will do everything in their power to reduce the loss of life.
We will take a zero tolerance when it comes to enforcement. If you're traveling those extreme driving behaviors and those extreme speed behaviors, zero tolerance for that right now. Considering the fatality picture that we have and the speeds that we're seeing, we need to do something about this, and we need to be a team.
Troopers, UDOT, and construction workers are all pleading with drivers to slow down and drive more carefully and aware, especially in construction zones.
Starting 1 week from today, Summit County will have a new transportation system called High Valley Transit. It'll have more flexibility and efficiency, offering a mix of microtransit, paratransit, and fixed routes based on the latest transportation technologies. To learn more about this new system, go to fox13now.com.
Still ahead, the search for survivors after this devastating apartment collapse near Miami, Florida. How government leaders are responding tonight.
And here in Utah, when there's not enough water for everyone, who gets what there is? The state engineer gave us a crash course, and we'll show you how it works.
In national news today, at least one person now dead, 99 other people still unaccounted for after a condominium collapsed near Miami, Florida. Rescue crews are trying to find and save as many people as possible.
Fox's Steve Harrigan has more from Surfside, Florida.
Emergency crews combing through the rubble of a collapsed condo building near Miami, searching for people trapped underneath. More than 80 fire and rescue units are using canines, cameras, and sound equipment to search the debris of the Champlain Towers condos, their efforts resulting in dozens of rescues in the hours following the deadly incident.
We're going to do our very best to save as many people in that pile of rubble as we possibly can.
Around 1:30 Thursday morning, residents woke to a thunderous noise. The 12-story building splintered, exposing about half of the 130 units. The exact number of people inside at the time, unclear.
I could feel the ground shake. I mean, it sounded like thunder. I thought a storm was coming until, literally I felt the ground shake a second time when the other half of the building fell.
Concerned friends and loved ones are gathering at a nearby reunification center waiting for answers.
I have friends that live there, and they have no idea because they were in the South Tower. There's no news yet.
Authorities do not yet know what caused the sections of the condo to crumble, but work was being done on the roof. Surfside Mayor Charles Burkett says he does not believe that contributed to the collapse.
I know that they are going to have engineers looking at this to try to identify what happened. You're not going to have those answers immediately, but I know that they are diligently going to be working to be able to do that.
President Biden called the mayor of Miami-Dade and offered full federal support. In Surfside, Florida, Steve Harrigan, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Former New York City mayor, this man, Rudy Giuliani, has now been suspended from practicing law in the state of New York. A state appellate court suspended Giuliani's law license after the former personal lawyer of Donald Trump made false and misleading statements over last year's presidential election.
A multi-million-dollar lawsuit has been filed against the University of Washington's police department. 5 black officers there are alleging the department is racist, saying they were routinely insulted and demeaned for years. A university spokesperson says the school is stunned by the allegations and that they are now launching their own probe into what happened.
Well, get ready. Travel is going to be a lot busier this 4th of July. AAA says about 47 million Americans are expected to travel between July 1st and July 5th. That does represent a near full recovery to pre-pandemic travel volumes. Now, AAA says this year's Independence Day travel volume is set to be the second highest on record.
The Census Bureau wants to begin collecting more inclusive and accurate data on America's LGBTQ+ population. It would help the government decide where its funds are distributed and where it's needed most. Questions on sexual orientation and gender identity would be included. The changes could go into effect as early as next month. The state of Utah is going to great lengths to keep us up to date on the water emergency this year.
And today, that meant learning what happens when Utah's rivers just don't have enough water to go around. Fox 13's Max Roth joins us with a look. Max.
Yeah, Kelly and Bob, you know, water rights are ridiculously complicated, but when we're in a severe drought, well, things have to start getting simpler. There's less water. So in a walkthrough with the state engineer today, we learned the basics. Water rights are usually all about who got there first, but when the situation gets dire, that can change.
For this river, let's say the first user was a farmer. Then a town incorporated and their system got rights. We'll say they are first-class rights holders, first dibs. Someone then built a country club outside of town a few years later. They're second in line. And now a city built up further downstream claimed a share. They have third-class rights. Let's say there's also a reservoir downstream. That gets filled up with what's left after everyone else gets their share, everything over 100% of the so-called direct flow water rights on the river. In a normal year, the river should provide a lot more water than various interests own in those rights. But not this year. The state engineer outlined the situation on 4 sections of Utah rivers.
2019, all 4 of these systems were diverting to storage. In 2020, just 2 of the systems, the Upper Duchesne and the Middle Bear, were diverting water into storage. And in 2021, none of the systems, as of this date, are that we've actually cut into direct flow rights.
The numbers in 2019, the Middle Bear flowed at 366% of water rights claimed. The Upper Duchesne, 487%. The Upper Provo, 356%. The Upper Sevier, 287%. Reservoirs got lots of water. In 2020, the Upper Provo did not have enough to satisfy all water rights, and the Upper Sevier was far below that mark. And this year, every one of these 4 important rivers way below the bare minimum to meet the rights owned by stakeholders. On the Upper Sevier right now, only first-class rights are getting water, and they are only getting 34% of their usual allocation. If things get really dire, the governor can declare a water shortage emergency, though, and that will change those priorities. It says water for drinking, sanitation, and firefighting get priority. If there's some left, agriculture gets it.
So all of those numbers we showed are for the situation in Utah as of this week. Normally, rivers are flowing high at this time of year, and the priority of all those rights don't factor in until later in the summer, if they even have to consider any rationing at all. But that's already happening now. Live in studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Boy, it does paint a dire picture, doesn't it? I mean, and even with the rain that we're getting right now today, it's not even a dent in what we need.
Oh, no, absolutely not. This is not a drought buster. It's very scattered. So what that means is some areas are getting a lot of rain very quickly, and other areas are seeing a little bit of light rain. But I doubt this has any significant impact in our water here across Utah since it's so scattered. But here's what we've got going on right now here across the region. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. We'll go ahead and zoom into northern Utah. We had the cells that moved through the valley about 2.5 hours ago. Right now, the lightning's to the east side of the Wasatch Mountains up into the Uintas. And right now, starting to cross into Wyoming, we're seeing some heavier rainfall like that just moved through the Wasatch Front a few hours ago. And for southern Utah, lots of lightning still just north of Milford and then over towards Capitol Reef into the Canyonlands area. And we're also seeing some areas of heavier rainfall associated with this. So over towards Moab right now, we're also seeing some hail coming down in those strongest cells. So definitely keeping our eye on these storms. We actually had about 1 inch of mud or small rocks that were covering both lanes of SR10 right under I-70 in central Utah. So we have seen some stronger storms that have moved through today and are causing some issues. So much top headlines, much needed rain, scattered thunderstorms in the forecast, wind and lightning, some of the big threats with those storms, and then also another heat wave this upcoming weekend. Above average temperatures will return. So right now it's about 60 to 70 here across the state. Highs tomorrow will be a little bit warmer. We look at the upper moisture forecast, and there's going to be quite a bit of activity off to our east through Monday and Tuesday next week, but we will stay pretty dry here across Utah. Now, speaking of dry and saturation, our relative humidity here along the Wasatch Front is quite different compared to this time 24 hours ago. Of course, we are quite a bit cooler as well, but we're at 73% for Salt Lake, 61% for Provo. And then down in St. George, we still have that in the teens. Same thing for Blanding. So it does become a concern with the lightning that we're seeing here across the region. But now tomorrow morning when you wake up, it'll be about 60 to 70. Still a few chances for isolated thunderstorms heading into tomorrow. So when you first wake up, it'll be in the 60s here for the Wasatch Front. Some areas across southern Utah into the 50s. For St. George, 72 tomorrow morning. Park City and Evanston and Logan even about 45 to 55 tomorrow morning. Then come tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll be in the mid-80s here along the Wasatch Front, so it will be a little bit warmer than today. And then for southern Utah, our temperatures will be back close to 105 for St. George before you know it. So some scattered thunderstorms this evening. Again, most of this activity heading into the rest of the weekend will be off to our east, but come tomorrow, we will still continue with some scattered thunderstorms here across the state. St. George 97 tomorrow, 102 for Saturday, and then close to 105 for Monday. For Salt Lake City will be mid to upper 80s tomorrow and Saturday, 92 for Sunday, and then about 95 degrees Monday through the early part of next week.
Law enforcement experts as well as Black Lives Matter Utah are reacting to body camera footage released of a shooting here in Pioneer Park. We'll have an update straight ahead.
Coming up, get a look at Salt Lake City's newest permanent supportive housing complex, which will give 65 homeless residents a roof over their head.
Could you eat chocolate in the morning and not have to worry about gaining any weight? What a new study is revealing.
And the rush is on to tie the knot. We'll take a closer look at the demand to book weddings this summer.
If you love chocolate, you'll want to listen to this. A new study of postmenopausal women has found starting the day off with chocolate may not lead to weight gain. Chocolate, it's not just for breakfast anymore. Researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital found that for women in that category, morning or nighttime chocolate intake did not lead to weight gain. They also found a high intake of chocolate during the morning could actually help with fat burning and reduce blood glucose levels. They also said eating chocolate at night could also alter metabolism the following morning.
I love it. Chocolate, good for the soul, always.
Right. BuzzFeed has announced plans to go public with an estimated valuation of $1.5 billion.
The digital media company made the announcement just today. BuzzFeed will also acquire media company Complex Networks as part of going public. Now, this is all happening through a merger with 890 Fifth Avenue Partners. That's a publicly traded special purpose acquisition company. The deal is set to close in the fourth quarter of this year.
A surge in shipping is forcing FedEx to temporarily cut off some of its customers. The shipping giant suspended service for 1,400 of its freight shipping customers earlier this month to ease congestion. The Wall Street Journal reports the move was to deal with relentless package volume and was a surprise to many businesses. FedEx says the cuts were made to minimize network disruptions and avoid backlogs.
Now, with more people vaccinated and capacity restrictions lifting everywhere, weddings, they are making a huge comeback this summer. The wedding planning website, The Knot, says most couples who were waiting until after the pandemic are setting new dates and overwhelming wedding planners, venues, and vendors right now. The wedding industry, which typically employs 885,000 Americans, is also coming out of the pandemic shorthanded. In addition to finding labor, costs of some wedding essentials like flowers have doubled during the downtime.
One university is seeing historic enrollment numbers, but they're also seeing a historic housing shortage. I'm Aaron Cox, and coming up next, I'm going to show you what they're telling students.
We're getting our first look at body-worn camera footage from an officer-involved shooting here on June 10th. We'll bring that footage to you straight ahead.
Today, Salt Lake City Police released body camera video as well as 911 calls from June 10th. That's when officers shot and killed a stabbing suspect in Pioneer Park.
Fox 13's Spencer Joseph covered the story when the shooting happened and joins us now from the park with the new details. Spencer.
Yeah, and you may remember that on the day that this happened, Chief Mike Brown and Mayor Aaron Mendenhall came out in support of those officers, saying that they had no other choice other than to fire their weapons. They made that call right after they saw the body camera footage that we're about to play for you, and a warning, this may be disturbing to some viewers.
911, what is your emergency?
Yes, hi, I'd like to report a stabbing at Pioneer Park. A stab wound in the arm and in the stomach.
That was the initial call, a woman who had been stabbed and was being helped from nearby construction workers. Paramedics and fire were first to arrive, and then police, who were immediately approached by several people, pointing out the suspect.
That guy stabbed her? Yeah. Okay. They're saying it's this guy right over here is what they're saying.
Police then approach him.
Hey, he's got the knife in his hand.
Giving him commands.
Yo, put the knife down.
Multiple times.
Put it down.
To drop the knife.
Put the knife down.
Officers talk about using a taser.
Taser.
But before there is time, the man breaks into a sprint.
Stop it!
After the shooting, the knife is still in his hand.
Put the knife down. Let it go, man. Come on, I want to help you.
Eventually dropping the knife. Within a minute, paramedics arrive.
He won't respond. I've been trying to get him to respond.
And the suspect is pronounced dead.
These situations are very dynamic. They happen fast.
All told, from the moment police start to approach to where shots are fired only takes 30 seconds.
Both those officers, I'm impressed with the fact that they didn't do it too soon. They probably did it right at the right moment. That second officer didn't create a crossfire.
Law enforcement expert and former Unified Police Deputy Chief Chris Bertram analyzed the footage, saying that this footage will be used in departments everywhere to show how fast a suspect can close on an officer.
You've got a half a second to react to that, and they do. They react very well. The officer starts to create distance, they give commands, but he's coming.
I do feel like from watching the body cam footage, it looks like suicide by cop. And suicide by cop should not be easy to achieve.
Lex Scott of Black Lives Matter Utah was there on the first day and shared her thoughts after seeing the footage.
I would ask the police department, if you know or you believe that there is a violent altercation that is happening, have your beanbag rounds, have your rubber bullet guns handy.
Now, the ultimate decision for whether this shooting was justified or unjustified now stands with Salt Lake District Attorney Sim Gill. For now, live in Pioneer Park, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Spencer, thank you. A hospital in West Valley City is training for a potential worst-case scenario.
Code or active shooter, radiology. This is a drill.
This is a drill, and those at Jordan Valley Medical Center, West Valley campus, say today's exercise was meant to highlight the strengths and weaknesses of their response to high-stress situations. Today's was an active shooter being on campus.
We can't predict exactly what's going to happen in the future, but we do have control over what we can do to prepare. And what we learn from today's drill will ultimately be used in our training for our staff and our providers and even patients in the way that they respond going forward.
First responders and nursing students got a chance to learn from today's training.
Doctors may be bringing back the house call, sort of. Some doctors in Salt Lake City will now be responding directly to the scene of certain 911 calls. It's to give physicians a better understanding of pre-hospital procedures and care. It will also help better train new doctors in Utah.
Part of the scene response is training the next generation of EMS physicians so they understand the difficulties of providing care in the field. They understand what their paramedics and EMTs face every day to provide the great care that they provide.
Dr. Youngquist there also says while physicians won't be able to respond to every 911 call, they do hope to respond to as many as possible.
little more than 7,400 more doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in Utah since yesterday, and more than 18,000 more Utahns are now considered fully vaccinated. Kelly?
Bob, 462 new coronavirus cases were reported today. One Utahn lost their life to the virus. The 7-day positivity rate is now 8.9%.
We were on track for the largest enrollment in school history.
Administrators at Southern Utah University say they were unprepared for a spike in enrollment following the pandemic. They sent a letter to students saying there may not be housing available for them in the fall.
That is a big problem. Fox 13's Aaron Cox spoke with SUU about their housing crisis. Also, one student who's now in the middle of it.
Housing options in Cedar City are starting to get gobbled up.
Skylar Jones is getting ready for his final semester at the Southern Utah University if he can find a place to stay.
Turns out there's just nothing there. There's just nothing.
Jones says he's turned to looking in surrounding cities and has even considered living in a camper trailer.
And I've applied to St. George places for housing, or I applied to places in Beaver for housing. I just haven't found anything.
Not knowing where you're gonna sleep will not help at all, because you need to focus on your studies.
Lawrence Mbucky is an ambassador for international students. He says he's seen other students book Airbnbs for housing.
Just to be able to accommodate, especially international students, before accepting them, so they can know that they're safe first and they have a roof over their heads before accepting a large amount of students.
At least 1,000 other students might not have a roof over their head.
The reality is, not every single student may be able to find a bed.
Jared Tippett, the vice president of student affairs at SUU, says they typically have 13,000 students enrolled each year. For fall, they have close to 14,000. About 8,000 to 9,000 students typically live in Cedar City.
Some students who chose from the class of 2020 to sit out for a year after high school and wait and see what happens. So they were joining us now in the fall of 2021.
Tippett says some may have to do school online during the housing shortage. Others have been asked to live with any family members or friends in the area.
I'm blessed that I have my family here.
Jones has one family friend he might try before he is completely without housing. His final semester of classes are all in person, and Jones is just hoping to make it through to graduation.
Sucks that I might be in a camper trailer come the end of at the start of the semester.
Tippett believes the spike in enrollment numbers stems from the pandemic and the fact that SUU is offering in-person classes. He anticipates this housing shortage to last 1 to 2 years before enrollment numbers go back to normal. In Salt Lake City, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now, we did check with other universities around the state, and most are not experiencing the same issue facing SUU. The University of Utah says its wait list for student housing this fall is in the hundreds, but that is fairly common. BYU says they do have vacancies in their student housing. Utah State University in Logan is not seeing a housing shortage. And Dixie State University says they just opened their biggest student housing unit that includes 300 new beds and are not seeing a shortage in student housing.
Still to come, there is a blood supply shortage happening right now, and one Salt Lake City group is asking for your help. What you need to know so you can help save lives.
Pandemic hit, shut everything down, and then we had to push back our opening.
Open now as more families get the itch to go outside this summer. We'll take a look at one of Utah's newest recreation centers and what they have to offer.
I'm tracking thunderstorms across the state right now. Coming up, how much more rain we could see. We're back in 60 seconds.
There is an ongoing blood shortage in Salt Lake City. Utah's capital city is facing a short supply of O positive and O negative blood types. ARUP Blood Services says more than 1/3 of the population has O positive blood, making it the most commonly needed. And they say O negative is the most commonly used.
People might think, I don't really need to give. There's so many people donating O positive, but the fact is there's more patients using it. So O positive can be given to trauma patients. O negative can be given to anybody. So that's the reason for that particular demand at the moment.
If you'd like to donate blood to ARUP Blood Services, schedule an appointment online by going to fox13now.com.
The Draper Recreation Center is celebrating its grand opening on its first birthday right now, and it's more crowded than ever. The pandemic really did put a lot of restrictions on the new 60,000 square foot building. But now with kids out of school, more people are able to work out in its massive fitness room, Olympic-sized swimming pool. They also have an indoor field house.
We just kind of opened up and rolled out things really slow, just during the pandemic and stuff like that. So it was nice to be able to work out those kinks and, see what the public likes, what's going to work, what's not going to work. And so, yeah, we're ready and open right now, and we're good to go.
Gosh, this looks like a top-notch facility. There's also a large open grass area with sweeping views of the Salt Lake Valley. The rec center says really it's a good place to safely watch community fireworks displays this summer.
This building, which looks like any other new apartment complex in Salt Lake City, will have a big impact on the fight against homelessness. Coming up, get a look at the Magnolia, Salt Lake City's newest permanent supportive housing complex.
And later in sports, hear from a former Jazz player now chasing an NBA title with his new team. While Real Salt Lake went up against the best in all of Major League Soccer last night, a finish chock full of PKs. Back in a bit.
Good evening, everyone. So glad you can join us for Fox 13 News Live at 5 on this rather chilly, it's all relative, right?
And wet.
Stormy, wet day. Allison will have your full forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Salt Lake City and state leaders celebrated the completion of a new permanent supportive housing complex today.
It's called the Magnolia on 300 East in Salt Lake City. As Fox 13's Diego Romo shows us, it will provide permanent housing and other help to 65 people.
3, 2, 1.
Today is a good day. We've never needed this kind of housing more, and coming out of the pandemic and really understanding how important safe and stable housing is to your health.
The $17 million Magnolia complex houses 65 studio apartments meant for single men and women experiencing homelessness.
It is really here as a supportive service type of housing for people who have experienced chronic homelessness. That means they've been homeless for over a year, many for many more years than that.
The Magnolia is not just a place to call home. The ground floor of the complex will house various homeless services and will connect residents to organizations like the 4th Street Clinic and Department of Workforce Services.
This type of property, which is called permanent supportive housing, is an evidence-based best practice. We have over a 95% success rate in our permanent supportive housing programs, meaning that people stay housed.
I've been from St. George to Logan, out to Tooele. There's homeless situations in every city here in this state.
Utah's new homeless coordinator, Wayne Niederhauser, says providing stable housing to individuals is only one piece of this puzzle.
It's the supportive services that must follow that to help people heal and to help them change their lives.
Residents of the Magnolia sign a 1-year lease with rent subsidized through Section 8 housing vouchers by the Salt Lake City Housing Authority.
That means that they only pay 30% of their income towards rent. So if their income goes down, they pay less money towards rent and the voucher pays more. And if their income goes up, then they pay a little bit more.
The Magnolia adds more capacity to the Road Home's existing permanent supportive housing services, which includes the 201-unit Palmer Court and 32-unit Wendell Apartments. Residents are expected to move in the middle of July. In Salt Lake City, Diego Romo, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A Utah mother of 7 is training to make history by summiting the second 7.
That's right. Now, the second 7 are the second highest mountains on each of the 7 continents, including Mount Kenya in Africa, Mount Tyree in Antarctica, Mount Logan in Canada, and more. You can see them there all on the map. After Jen Drummond, there she is. She moved to Park City 5 years ago. She's now training to be the first woman to reach the top of each of those peaks. She's already summited Ojos del Salado in Chile, Mount Kenya in Africa, as well as Mount Everest. She says her children are her motivation.
Them watching me do all aspects of this adventure, from planning it to training for it to eating for it to talking about it to other people, they're learning how to chase their passion. They're learning how to make it come to fruition, and it isn't all rainbows and butterflies.
She is all in. I am impressed.
You can tell.
Drummond says she's on track to reach her goal in the next 2 years or less. She was congratulated by Governor Spencer Cox today as she continues to make history. You go, girl.
Yeah,
Wow.
imagine the imprint on her children and what they will expect of themselves now after seeing their mother accomplish so much.
Oh, I think they're loving it. They're cheering her on.
Quite the role model. And we are loving the rain that we're seeing here across Utah. Much needed rain. However, it has brought a few problems. We've seen some urban flooding on the southwest side of the Salt Lake Valley in the South Jordan area. Daybreak getting 1.3 inches of rain. More than an inch of that fell in an hour. Grantsville 1.1. Big Cottonwood Canyon about half of an inch of rain. Sandy 0.38 and Vernon and Orem both at about a quarter inch of rain. Quite a bit of lightning here across the state also. So spotty showers and thunderstorms from Capitol Reef, a bit more widespread through the Canyonlands area. The bulk of this precipitation right along I-70 and then the heavier stuff further south. And then as we go ahead and take a look at this, that lightning, quite a bit of it. A lot of lightning right now west of I-15 moving through close to Nephi. And then a lot of lightning right now near the Wyoming border starting to make its way up through Evanston, headed right there. Right now headed towards Evanston, right along I-80. So what we can expect, still some chances for scattered showers and thunderstorms into tomorrow. Temperatures will be a little bit warmer here across the northern Utah at least. We've got 60s and 70s right now, so it's definitely a cool day out there. For tomorrow, still the chance for some non-severe thunderstorms here across Utah, some stronger storms starting in eastern Colorado tomorrow. But when you wake up, it'll be about 55 to 65 degrees. Then highs tomorrow will be close to 80 to 90. So we'll look at this future cast because I want to show you that we will continue with a few scattered showers through 9-10 o'clock tonight here across the region. But then tomorrow morning, a little bit of a break. We'll still have a few showers possible across the state, but it'll become more scattered again by tomorrow afternoon, especially from Bear Lake area over towards Evanston and into eastern Utah. So future precipitation, we're mostly looking at less than half of an inch of rain with these storms, but as we've been saying, possible to see even more. We do have a probable rating for most recreation areas today, but not a good day to get out into the areas that are prone to the flash flooding. That is the second highest rating you can have. For St. George, 97 tomorrow, 102 for Saturday, and then 105 starting next week. And for the Wasatch Front, we are upper 80s Friday and Saturday, and then the 90s return. Overnight temperatures in the 60s for the next week.
Facing a team that hasn't lost a single game all season, Real Salt Lake liked their chances to leave Seattle with a result last night, but sometimes unfortunate things do happen. Here's how it finished. All 3 goals coming in the second half, including the equalizer. Rubio Rubin tripped up by Seattle's keeper Stefan Cleveland. And then a double whammy for Cleveland as Albert Rusnak buries that PK minute 79. But what goes around comes around. Just 7 minutes later, in fact, the Rockets bounced around a bit before Anderson Julio can't pull his arm quick enough. So the handball at the end leading to Raul Rudiez's chip shot game winner. RSL suffers only their second loss of the season.
I saw a lot of commitment. I saw a lot of energy. I saw a lot of fight. I saw a united group. That sometimes those games go your way and some don't. And if we want to continue to grow as a team, we have to leave here with the point. To give up a goal like that, especially that way, and your hands up, whatever you want to call it, it's tough. It's gutting, and we just kind of have to throw this game behind us and move on because Saturday is coming quick, and we can't dwell on this loss.
Yeah, RSL on short rest again with Houston in town Saturday. As you can see, the Dynamo just a point ahead in the Western Conference race, so Salt Lake could easily climb a spot, maybe 2, with a win. Chris Paul's back, cleared to play tonight for the Suns in Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. On the flip side, no Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers as he continues to be a question mark going forward with an injured knee. LA was down 0-2 in their previous 2 series against the Mavs and the Jazz, so we'll see if they can pull yet another rabbit out of their hat. The Clips probably should have had Game 2, only to watch former Jazz man Jay Crowder throw a great inbounds feed for DeAndre Ayton with less than a second left to steal it on Tuesday. Crowder, who helped lead the Heat to the NBA Finals inside the bubble just last summer, has a great chance to get back there in 2021. A great addition along with Paul down in the desert.
just knowing the game, trying to be as versatile as possible in this game of basketball. I just think that's just what I bring to the table. And my teammates and coaches doing a great job of just putting me in position to help the team. And I help the team in a lot of different ways. So I feel like I've been playing this game for a long time. I study it in my life since I was a kid.
And Tony Finau still trying to work out of a slump. Missed the cut at last week's U.S. Open. And the start of today's Travelers Championship did not fare any better. In fact, worse. Finds the trap at 13. Then the putt here just rolls out. One of 5 bogeys Thursday. Even had a double bogey. In real trouble at 17 from the side of a hill and nearly into the water here. Finau will need an incredible round 2 to make the cut. Tied for 150th. Fifth from the bottom, so he needs to find that spark.
Yeah.
That bat.
That swing back.
Well, it's such fine motor skills involved in golf that just the smallest thing can set you, you know, into the weeds.
And the smallest thing can get you back. So that's
true.
Find that again.
Right.
I like
He'll
that
be rolling.
train of thought there.
There you go.
We'll be right back.
Well, we are getting some much needed rain here across the state. For St. George tomorrow, 97 degrees, mostly sunny sky. Triple digits return this weekend. For Salt Lake, we do have that chance for some thunderstorms again. So scattered again tomorrow, 88 for Saturday. And then we heat back up this weekend.
Please send more water, more water, more
We'll
water,
take what
more
we can
water,
get.
More water.
What a nice change, though, not having to wear sunglasses outside and give our eyes a rest.
It was great.
Yeah, nice cool down. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
We'll see you back here at 9 o'clock.